Well, hello and welcome to episode 107 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, we have made it. It's over halfway to Christmas. All of my Christmas shopping is done. I had to go out and get something for everyone. Red Ryder BB guns and all. That's what people want under the trees this year. But how are you doing? Christmas shopping all done? You all sorted, wrapped up, ready to go?
No. Okay, Brian, I'm just going to be honest with you. My Christmas shopping experience has been lackluster and awful.
Mm.
I will say they redid the toy section at Target, and I don't know if anybody's been to Target recently, and I don't know if this is a nationwide thing or it's just our local Target, but it is fantastic. It is like walking into a snowy village of amazingness. So
Oh,
that's been fun. But yeah, I'm way behind. I'm way behind. And Amazon, Jeff Bezos doesn't need any more of my money, but by golly, Prime is looking better and better because
that's right. Yeah.
everything I want is like, well, we can get it to you in 2 weeks. So we're in a very
Mm.
interesting geographic location. We're 2 weeks from everywhere except if we order on Amazon. So it's going okay. It's going okay.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you still have some time, so make sure to go out, shop local, support your local industry, your friends that have
That's right.
businesses. Make sure you support those first and foremost. But yeah, hopefully everyone out there is keeping some sanity as we get towards the end of the year. Whether you celebrate Christmas or not, there's always this year-end push. Work and family and get-togethers and holiday parties that you have to go to for your job, which always seem to come at an inconvenient time. All that stuff is happening. But you know what is not inconvenient? That is watching one of the all-time classics of Christmas movies, one of the best comedies around, and we're going to be getting into it. Some people like it so much they watch it for 24 straight hours randomly on TV. I don't even know how that happened, but we're going to be getting into all that when we talk about this week's film, A Christmas Story. So why don't we take a quick break, Michaela, and we're going to need to find ourselves some Ovaltine to whip up this week's cocktail.
So in this episode of Drink the Movies, we are covering a really cool martini. It's an Ovaltine martini. It sounds like my great aunt Esther would have loved this thing. We found it from the pineapplepaperco.com site.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like we need to talk to somebody about Ovaltine in general. We're young. I mean, we're younger. We were how do I say it? We were born in
Let's
the
not get
80s.
carried away. Let's not get carried away.
Okay, as
Yeah,
old as we are, Ovaltine is way older. Let's just say that. How about that? And
that's
I feel like in 1940, Ovaltine was a thing. When we bought it, you can buy this now at a store, and it tastes kind of like Nestle Quick, if anybody remembers that. It's just like this
yeah.
chocolate powder that you add to water or milk. Water, if you're disgusting, why you would do that, I have no idea. But you could do that if you wanted.
You
Um,
could, yeah.
but I wonder, you just asked me in our break if you thought that Ovaltine actually tasted better over time or if this is the original flavor. I have no idea. I feel like someone maybe older than us by 30 or 40 years, our parents might know. Our parents might know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Let us know out there listening if you remember Ovaltine. But yeah, you and I grew up in the Nestle Quick, the Nesquik generation. And maybe that's why when this movie came out in 1983, it was funny to kind of poke holes at Ovaltine, right? Because it was older, it was out of fashion. Kids were hip and cool like us. We had the Nestle Quick Bunny. That's what we were getting into. But yeah, Ovaltine. Don't forget to drink your Ovaltine, and that is exactly what we did. And we scrounged some up, and we found this cocktail, and it is good to go. It's basically a White Russian that you're going to put into a martini glass. But let's get into making this one a little bit, Michaela. You're going to take a martini glass, and you're going to rim it in some sort of. You can use simple syrup. You can just use a little bit of water. You can use kind of whatever you want to use. Corn syrup I've seen people use for sweeter rimming, but you're going to rim that glass with some of the crushed up just the Ovaltine powder, because of course you are. And then you're going to throw into your shaker tin 1 ounce of Kahlua, 2 ounces of vodka, and 1 ounce of heavy cream. You're going to shake that up with some ice, strain it into the martini glass, and boom, good to go. Ovaltine martini, Michaela. What do you think about
That's right.
this? Chocolatey, and delicious and rich, very rich.
Yeah, very, very nice. I put a little bit more Ovaltine in mine. So I like sprinkled some on top as well,
Hmm.
just because I am a chocoholic. I love it. So I thought it was very good. I really like White Russians or mudslides. This is very similar to that kind of, it's in that vein, that creamy alcoholic vein. So
Mhm.
I thought this was great. But I have to say there's the smallest package of Ovaltine that I could get was like 37 ounces. So now I got a lot of Ovaltine that I got to drink. So if anybody finds any other Ovaltine inspired cocktails, I'm up for it. I'm here for it. Help me use all this Ovaltine,
Nah.
because there's not a lot. A little goes a long way.
That's right. Yeah. And we actually do have another Ovaltine recipe coming everyone's way over in our Patreon when we cover Christmas Story Christmas. So patreon.com/drink the movies. You can get a bonus cocktail over there if you're so inclined. But yeah, this was pretty good. I think that I would have probably liked it more as a White Russian just over ice. So gotten a little bit more of that ice melt. But this was pretty good. And you could totally blend this with ice and turn it into like a mudslide, like you said. That would be good. That's a good option. And if you want to make a Christmas Story mocktail out of your Ovaltine, totally do that too. Just mix up yourself a tall, hearty glass of Ovaltine, some Ovaltine powder and some milk. Shake that over some ice so you get a little bit of that ice melt, which is a really important component of martini that we don't ever talk about or acknowledge, but it definitely is. And you can pour that into a martini glass. Kids will love it. Maybe not the Ovaltine bit, and maybe they definitely won't love their decoder ring, which just tells them to drink more Ovaltine. That is for sure. That's for sure. But yeah, this was pretty good, and I think it was interesting to finally have some Ovaltine, something that I only knew existed because of this week's film, A Christmas Story.
Oh, that's so cool. My grandmother had Ovaltine, I think. I don't know. I think I found it next to her Tang. Remember Tang? All of these powdered drinks that old people had. I don't understand it. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to be talking about this movie. This movie is very, what's the word? It's very nostalgic. And I think Ovaltine kind of has that same vibe to it. So I was really excited that we found a cocktail that kind of brought some newness to it and is also delicious.
That's right. Yeah. So mix one of these up and let us know what you think about it. Let us know what you think about Ovaltine. But for now, Michaela, we are going to have to put our nostalgia glasses on and, go back in time to a much simpler time when, we were just wanting to have the best Christmas ever. And hopefully we're able to achieve that. So why don't we take a quick break and we will be right back to talk about this week's film, A Christmas Story.
Spoiler warning for A Christmas Story. He totally shoots his eye out. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the turkey. We're going to talk about all the vignettes that this movie is comprised of. And if you haven't seen it, I maybe you don't live in the United States where we show this ad nauseum at Christmas time on every channel for like 24 hours straight. I don't know. But if you missed it, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about it. So if you don't want to hear all of the things, then press pause. Go get yourself some Ovaltine, make yourself up an amazing Ovaltine martini, and come back because we're going to chat ad nauseum about A Christmas Story.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to get into this one for sure. This one came out in 1983. It was directed by Bob Clark, and it stars Melinda Dillon as our mom Parker, Darren McGavin as our dad Parker, and Peter Billingsley as little Ralphie Parker, the kid with the ambitions to get a Red Ryder BB gun. Now, this was based off of book called In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash, which is an incredible title for a book that was written by Gene Shepard. Now, Gene was like a radio personality and kind of wrote down these vignettes into a book. And Gene actually is the one that is the narrator in this. He is playing like the adult consciousness of Lil Ralphie as we're going through his story, because Peter Billingsley, really, if you watch this, doesn't have a ton of dialogue. He's very expressive. He can make lots of really good faces, in certain situations. But really, we're getting all of Ralphie's thoughts from Gene, the man who, wrote these things, originally in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I got to say, I love Peter Billingsley in this because he is super like plastic faced in that he has all of these kind of, obviously he has emotion. He has an emotional face, but like in between, as these things are happening, I wonder what it was like to direct him because, he's a kid and they're, I think children are notoriously kind of interesting to work with when you have when you have to direct them. His
Mhm.
eyes and his cheeks and the way, I mean, we're going to talk about it, but there's a couple of scenes that just would not work unless he handled these things perfectly, with which the timing and then the voiceover. I mean, it really is very special. And I was glad to see that Peter Billingsley did a lot of other things, including the sequel to this that we're going to talk about on the Patreon site. But yeah, I really love the mix between Gene Shepherd and Peter Billingsley. I wonder if they met and like were able to kind of vibe off each other in the making of this, because again, I don't know how they would have done it otherwise. It's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, for sure. And now with, modern technology, when you're doing voiceover work and stuff, it's very easy to throw up, some sort of digital compilation of what's happening. But, before, when you're doing everything off of film and things, that would have been a lot harder. So yeah, it would be interesting to see sort of like a making of, exactly how that could put together. And yeah, Peter Billingsley is great. Like I'd mentioned, he's very kind of expressive in a sense, but he's also very I don't know, kind of I don't want this to come off as like derogatory sounding, but like he goes from like being like very like vacant expressively to being very expressive, which is kind of interesting. And I think that Ralphie is a character that a lot of kids, especially in 1983, so this would have been, geared at people who would have been like our parents' age, who could, remember back to Christmas in the 1950s and what that was like, and sort of, see themselves in Little Ralphie, which I think was, one of the big reasons why, it kind of resonated so well with, that whole sort of thing. So let's get into this movie a little bit. Like we said, Ralphie really wants the ultimate Christmas present. We're finding that right off the bat there. He wants a Red Ryder carbine action, 200 shot range model air rifle. What kid doesn't want that? Ralphie was like 8 or 9, I think. I don't
I think
know,
he's
but
8.
yeah.
Yeah.
But he keeps being met with some sort of reluctance to it. And I love kind of this opening sequence where he's, talking about this is what he wants. He's having like the fantasies and the daydreams about it. And then he takes like like very very sneakily, like every kid has this idea that he's going to do this, because I know I totally did this. I would like dog ear like pages and magazines and things, and he takes like the advertisement for it and just goes and like sticks it like haphazardly like right in the middle of one of his mom's magazines, like she's not going to figure out exactly where that came from.
Right.
But that's kind of the main thread of this thing, right? It's Ralphie's pursuits of having this perfect Christmas with the perfect Christmas gift, and then that gets wrapped up in, I don't know, 2-ish days worth of these little vignettes when we're
Yeah.
going on all these crazy hijinks with
Yeah.
him, with his dad, with his family, schoolmates, all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he does the quintessential thing that happens at around Christmas time for school. He's asked, "Hey, what do I want for Christmas?" He has to write a theme. You remember those days? I don't think we called them themes. It was just like a creative writing part of school that,
Yeah.
you have to write like 5 sentences, and we don't want to do that. But Ralphie, he puts it all out there. He's like, "That's what I want, and I think it'd be really a good Christmas gift." And his teacher doesn't agree. She gives him like a C, which I don't understand, because looking at the paper, his handwriting wasn't that bad. He wrote sentences.
He turns in like a whole book worth of like reasoning about it.
Yeah, but the thing about this that I think I enjoy more and more every time I see it is the creativity that Ralphie seems to have. So he has this idea that he is going to be able to do so many other things in his life, and because of this 200 shot range model air rifle, right? He's got this vignette where he, in his mind, he's like protecting the house with Old Blue, which is, I guess, that's what he named his
That's
gun.
right, yeah.
Do you do that? I don't know. I'm a pacifist, so I don't know how people name their weaponry, but he's like shooting out of the front window and saving his family. And it's they're like living on the open range in his mind, instead of like on a house in Cleveland, on the west side. It's very, very fantasy driven, some of these vignettes that he has. And when he's writing this theme out, he's thinking about how his teacher is going to think it's the best theme ever, and she gives him this amazing grade, and all of these things. And unfortunately, it doesn't work out that way. Everybody basically thinks that it's not a good idea for an 8-year-old to have a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, most everybody. His mom's not a fan. His teacher's not a fan. There's a Santa Claus at Higbee's. Now, Higbee's department store we should talk about a little bit because apparently that was a real place.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Santa Claus at Higbee's thinks it's a bad idea. I really love when he's kind of turning in that paper too. He takes like a whole like I don't know like little like gift set thing for his teacher, and she just puts it like in the drawer with all this other junk she's accumulated from all of these kids over all this time, I think, which is pretty fun. But yeah, Higsby's, this real life store, has this crazy Santa display, which is really fun. This is one of the kind of things I always remember about this, growing up watching it, was a Santa Claus up on top of like this tall, I don't know, a stack of whatever he was sitting on, but I had like a slide on it. It was all snow covered, all this stuff. He gets up there and tells Santa, this Santa Claus seems like the worst Santa Claus ever in the 1950s. Not a particularly friendly guy. All the kids are like getting off of his lap and just in tears and shrieking and crying, and they just get shoved down this slide down to the bottom of Higsby's.
It is a genius idea, though, because if you have ever
out of
had
here,
to sit
kid.
in
Out
line,
of here, kid.
No, totally. But if you've ever had to like go with your kid to meet Santa, that is the worst. The line is like 75 miles long, and this is in the 40s, right? So the parents are like, "Hey, we're gonna go do something else. Y'all wait in line by yourself," right? They had it figured out, and then they go up these steps, right? They get a very angry elf, a couple angry elves, like put them on they have a system, it's a very contrived process for how they pick up these kids and put them on Santa's lap. And what I find so interesting about it is they move the kid's legs to one side so that he can go right down the slide. It's a genius idea, though. I mean, I wish that more Santa places where you could go and meet Santa had something like that, because at least it gave you something to look forward to. And then parents could be like, I'm going to wait for you down here and get my life together and get stuff done while you go through this line of craziness rather than make me wait.
Yeah, for sure. And one of my favorite kind of parts of this too is Ralphie finally gets up there and he's been going through this whole monologue about how he's going to ask, and then Ralphie does what every kid does, I imagine. I don't have kids myself, but they get up on Santa Claus's lap and they totally freeze, which is why that line is so long, right? Because the kids either freak out or they forget to ask, or they just start rambling off this stuff. So he forgets to ask, and then love it, little Ralphie like stops himself going down the slide and starts crawling up, and he's like, I want this BB gun. And Santa's just like, you'll shoot your eye out, kid, and just like gives him a boot to the face to send him on his way, which is really fun. So yeah, Ralphie gets to go on all these. He has some other hijinks with some of his classmates. Of course, there's a couple of bullies there, which are never very good. Don't have bullies. One of your bullies, what's his name?
Scott Furcus.
Scott Furcus has braces, which those kind of braces didn't really come out until the 70s. So that's a little continuity error, but that's okay. That's all right. We're in it to win it. Has a coonskin cap. Mean has this other little bully friend. No good can come with the bullies. You got to stand up to bullies. So Ralphie end up standing up to Scott. That's pretty good.
He sure does. What I love about that part is, so Scott Furcus, he's awful. He's got yellow eyes, and he really does. This actor, Zach Ward, I've seen him in a couple of other things. He's amazing because he never seems to play a nice guy. He's got this bully thing down pat. They put on Peter and the Wolf, the soundtrack of Peter and the Wolf, kind of behind every time he shows up, so he's a bad guy. I love when Ralphie finally loses his cool and just hammers him. And it's the 40s, right? It's in the middle of the cold. He's got his gloves. Ralphie's just like hitting him as hard as he can, and finally. His little brother Randy goes and gets his mom because he's like, Ralphie finally did it. He finally decided he was not going to take anymore. And his mom gets him, takes him home. And of course, then Ralphie's really upset. He's crying. Randy's really upset and crying. He's like, Dad's going to kill Ralphie because he shouldn't be fighting. And of course, the mom knows exactly what to do, right? She knows that it was, fighting is never the answer, but he'd reached his limit. He needed to solve the problem himself. Of course, this was back when parents, they didn't go and call the other parents or call the police or any of that. It was a very different time.
That's
And
right.
they
Yeah.
don't tell they tell the dad, but they make it so they tell the old man, but they make it sound like it was like no big deal, it's totally
Yeah.
fine.
That,
Um and
that's right. Yeah.
it's so great.
Some schoolyard roughhousery. Yeah, Mother Parker does cover for him, and seems like a pretty cool mom. She's kind of flighty, but kind of fun throughout this thing, and deals with Old Man Parker perfectly, deals with the kids really well. So really pretty good, sort of family structure that we have here at home for Ralphie. Ralphie has a brother by the name of Randy. He is this goofy little kid. I love his mom bundles him up in like 15,000 coats and scarves, and he can't put his arms down. So he's just left there like crying and waddling around. That's pretty funny. And Ralphie has a couple of friends by the name of Flick and Schwartz who get into the most ultimate of showdowns where they are daring and double dog daring and the elusive triple dog daring. And you don't want to get triple dog dared to what these two end up getting into, Michaela.
I mean, there is a point at which no amount of dog daring should get in the way of like science and reason and logic. Why anybody would stick their tongue on a flagpole is just beyond me.
Yeah. Well, you're kids. You don't know the
I
way,
guess.
the workings of the world.
Well, no, the worst part about this is that the kids just leave him once he gets stuck because obviously, hey, newsflash, everybody, his tongue gets stuck and he can't get unstuck. No, they just leave him. They don't like try and warm up the pole or any. They're just like, bye, see you later, dude. Yeah. And so, of course, then the teacher's like, has anybody seen Flick? Has anybody seen him? Where is he? And she sees him out like physically stuck to the pole.
Yeah, like the fire department's rolling in. I mean, these kids are quick to abandon. They abandon when Scott is, bullying the kids. They're like, no, not me. Gotta go. Time to go. Right. So you're on your own if you're a kid here in this northern Indiana town for sure. But that's not all that's going on. Because one of the great aspects of this movie, Michaela, is of course Old Man Parker, played by Darren McGavin. He has some of the most fun, most interesting vignettes of this whole show. It turns out, Michaela, he is pretty good at his job. You're good at your job. Maybe you get an award. That's pretty good. But if you're Old Man Parker and you're good at your job, you get the best award all the way from France.
All the way from France, and you get a really cool box that says fragile on it, so you have to be real careful when you open it. Gosh, I swear this is, I remember this more than I think any other part of the film. Watching this when it first came out, is the leg lamp of fame, right? Because the whole thing lights up. It's not just the lamp part with the lampshade and the fringe, the whole leg.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you get a whole leg.
And Ralphie is very excited to put his hands all over it.
Ralphie is very smitten, as it were. Old Man Parker seems to be pretty enthralled by this leg lamp as well. Mama Parker not as excited about having this leg lamp right in the front window. My favorite part of this whole exchange, though, is that when it's getting delivered in the world's largest like shipping crate. I don't know where it came from. It would have cost $10 billion to ship this giant of a crate, but it's this huge thing, and this guy brings it to the door, and Old Man Parker goes up and he's like, what is it? And the guy's like, I don't know. And then he's like, well, what's inside of it? And the guy looks so annoyed. It's like, I don't know what's inside of it. I just told you I didn't know what it was. But it's pretty great. And he like breaks open this box and he climbs inside of it. It's full of like sawdust and wood shavings, and he pulls out this leg, gets it right there in the front window. And then you get kind of this little back and forth that kind of goes on through, I don't know, maybe like the first half of the movie where, Mother Parker is trying to turn it off before they leave the house. And then it, quote unquote, accidentally gets broken, and Old Man Parker is just like destroyed. He's trying to glue it back together. It's his award. He was so proud of it. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of tacky. And if you go to Cleveland, Ohio, where this house is, you can see a leg lamp right in the window, because that house is a museum now. So let us know if you ever did that. But that's pretty fun. Old Man Parker also has some run-ins with some neighborhood dogs who have the same exquisite taste in turkey as he does.
The dogs. Why don't they? I mean, so these dogs belong to the Bumpus family, which I guess are the hillbilly next door neighbors. I don't know if we even ever see them, but there's like 37 of these dogs. And I guess they left the door open during Christmas Day. The dogs ruin the family dinner. They jump on the kitchen table. The kitchen table's not strong enough, I guess.
They like destroy the table. Yeah.
The table's destroyed. The pies are destroyed. And the turkey is just gone. And of course, Gene Shepherd is kind of doing a voiceover, and he's like, no turkey sandwiches, no turkey soups, nothing at all. And so, of course, the Mama Parker is like really upset. She starts to cry, but not the old man. The old man's like, you know what? I can solve this problem. We're going to go out to eat. It's going to be fine. And they do. And what's open on Christmas Day, even in 1940 in the little town outside of Chicago? A Chinese restaurant. They're always open. So you get some really lovely folks trying to sing Christmas carols, and they bring out this Christmas duck dinner. It looks like turkey. Maybe it's duck. I don't know what it was, but then they chop the head off right in front of Mrs. Parker. She freaks out and laughs. It's actually really great. And it could have been really bad, right? They could have, that was one of the things that I really loved watching this, is that, Mr. Parker, the old man, he was not to be messed with, right? There's a scene where Ralphie says a bad word. He says the F word, and he gets in real big trouble because that's not okay. But, his father really tried to, bring out, and when things didn't go right on Christmas Day, he still was like, I can solve this problem. We can make it happen without getting too upset about it, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, you keep expecting him to sort of like blow his lid, but he's always a pretty cool customer. So kudos to you, old man Parker, for that, for sure. Then the other one of these that you mentioned, the saying the bad word and gets his mouth washed out with soap. That looks really horrible. And then it's very 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 kind of sad. You see Ralphie laying in bed, and he's got like drool coming out of his mouth and like tears coming out of his eyes. You get his mom like tastes like a little tiny taste of the soap, and she's like, so how terrible that would have been. But one of my other kind of favorites here of these little vignettes is when they go to the Christmas tree lot to get their Christmas tree, and you get old man Parker. He's trying to like negotiate the best deal on this Christmas tree, and ends up getting it, and it's very much a Christmas Vacation sort of thing, where the tree is 3 times the size of the room that it's supposed to be in. They get it all decorated and then he plugs it into the plug of death. But what do? Old man Parker's not phased. He just kind of blows the smoke away and plugs it back in anyways. Totally fine.
He's like, I can change the fuse, just a minute. I mean, there's literally, I don't know how they do this, because there's fire coming out of that one outlet. There's 37 things that are attached to that outlet. And electrical fires are real. Don't do that, kids. That's not cool to do that. But he's like, I'll change the fuse. And I love that, where he was known for being a fixer of all things. He could do all the things. He could change fuses. And while the mom was just known for never sitting down and having a warm meal, because she was always taking care of everybody else at mealtime and making sure that Ralphie, didn't get in trouble for getting a fight. You could always count on her in a pinch. And then, of course, actual Christmas time, because they at least in this family, they put the tree up and they look at all the lights, and they have all this that old timey tinsel that they had, that you actually you kind of drape it over the
strings,
the tree,
which is miserable to clean up. I don't know why that ever became a thing. But I love is this the trees with like the needles coming out of it and all that stuff at the tree lot, which is great. But the tree looks good. And then finally we make it to Christmas morning. Ralphie's going through his presents. You get some presents from your aunt, which is good. An Easter bunny costume, which is a great Christmas present. He goes up and puts on his Easter bunny sort of pajama kind of thing. Oh, but luckily for Ralphie, his dad, old man Parker, has one more trick up his sleeve. As Ralphie gets through his presents, pretty devastated. He didn't get what he really wanted, what he'd asked Santa for. He did all this work leading up to Christmas to get his favorite gift. But old man Parker comes through in the end. He says, I had a BB gun when I was about his age, or I had a gun when I was about his age, something along those lines. And Ralphie couldn't be more excited to have acquired his Red Ryder BB gun.
That's right. I love that scene because they wake up in the morning. And this film is actually pretty good for kids and parents because the parents, as soon as the kids go to bed, they're like, okay, now let's get down to it. And then it cuts immediately to Christmas morning. So the kids, wake up and you don't see them putting out presents. You don't see Santa coming or anything like that. So they play Santa Claus and everybody kind of hands out their gifts. I love the old man gets a bowling ball and he's real excited about it. He's like, well, what is this? What could this possibly be? Because it's just a ball that's wrapped up. And I love that at the end, Ralphie, he's disappointed, but he doesn't make a big deal out of it. He just says, well, I got almost everything. And then when they point to this area kind of behind the tree, there's one last present. And you can tell the mom is not pleased. She's like, I really don't like this, but go outside. Please don't shoot anything. Don't shoot yourself. Don't shoot it at people. And that's it. That's the only instruction, right? But It's so amazing because when he opens it up and he's so excited and he actually opens the box up and starts to put the gun together, his dad is watching him and kind of experiencing that very first time that he's open this with him. And it's so beautiful to see because parents actually do that. And I didn't know that until I had my own kids, but you actually do where you're like, okay, you're going to do that. And then you're going to do that. And do you see this thing? And isn't that cool? And it was such a really beautiful kind of showing about what the gift giving aspect of Christmas is all about, because you see that as happy as Ralphie was, it was nothing compared to how happy his father was to be able to see that he was able to give him what he really, really wanted and all of that. And that's one of my favorite scenes because they're both so excited. And the camera keeps panning between Ralphie and the old man kind of experiencing like the loading of it and the all of that before going outside and shooting his eye out, which inevitably happens.
That's right. Yeah, enough people give you a warning. That's of course what's going to happen. He does blames it on an icicle. Unfortunately, breaks his glasses, which he's more worried about. Could have lost the eye and probably gotten away with that, but don't want to break your glasses. That is every kid's fear that wears glasses for sure, because mom and dad are going to be definitely upset about that, especially in 1940. That would have been a big deal to get your glasses broken then. So, but yeah, and then you have kind of the vignette that sends them to the Chinese restaurant, and then this movie is over.
It's over.
Christmas has ended just as abruptly as it began. But mission accomplished. Got the Red Ryder BB gun. Christmas has been saved. Everyone was happy. You get a nice kind of a very dark but very funny little family look into the Ralphie, into the Parker family.
That's right.
Which is pretty neat. So that's Christmas Story in a nutshell. Like we said, it's basically just kind of these little comedic vignettes. It's almost like I kind of liken it to like a sketch comedy kind of a thing. Like we're going to do like a Christmas themed sketch comedy sort of thing, and that's kind of what this turned into, which makes sense, because it was based off of this little like radio and book kind of little vignettes where Gene Shepard's just telling these little stories about him growing up and stuff like that. So it makes sense that that's kind of how this came to be. But Michaela, Christmas Story is a pretty big deal in the world of Christmas tales. Tell me about, or tell everyone about how you got introduced to this. This Christmas classic. I don't even know when we started watching this if I would have considered it a Christmas classic, but it surely is now. So
it surely is now. It was probably the mid to late 90s. Actually, I didn't have TV growing up in my formative years, so I watched a lot of movies. So you would have thought that this would have made the list somehow as far as Christmas movies, because it's not Die Hard. It's much more family friendly than that, and yet somehow I missed it until it was showing for 24 hours on CBS or NBC or MSN or some channel that is known for doing it every Christmas. It's 24 hours of A Christmas Story. And I have to say, when I watched it in my late teens, I was not a fan. I thought it was okay, but it was not my favorite. I didn't like that he wanted a gun. I didn't like that nobody would give him a gun until the very end. I didn't understand the vignettes. I was like, I just don't understand what's happening. I understood what was happening, but I just didn't understand the point, I guess. So it was lost on me until probably about 5 years ago. Or maybe even 10 years ago, I watched this with my dad, who was a kid in the 40s, and he was like, "Oh yeah, no, I didn't. We didn't have a Higbee's because he lived in Montana, but he was like, "Oh yeah, the corner store where you saw the gift that you wanted, and there's always a bully, and there's like all of these things really happened to a lot of people. Maybe not all at one Christmas, but just kind of that look and feel and nostalgia really opened my eyes. And now that I have my own kid, I see this from an adult perspective as well as the kid's perspective, and so it really, I think that was the audience it was meant for, not just for children. And so it won me over. So now it's something we probably watch at least one time a year during the Christmas season for sure. What about you?
Yeah, so yeah, obviously I'm a little too young to have seen this right when it first came out, but it would have hit home video fairly early in the 80s. I'm not sure if that's when I saw it, but it started to become like this television staple, really kind of in the late 80s when it was being aired every year on television. So I would have just seen it then. Like it became kind of part of the Christmas rotation because you watched what was on TV. You didn't have stations that just showed Christmas movies 24 hours a day for, like the 3 months leading up to Christmas. You kind of watched whatever, that movie was for that week, or the matinee was for that week. So, probably started watching it kind of about every year then. And then something really strange happened. Not even for just a holiday movie, but just for kind of anything. And, like in the mid 90s, I think like 1997, TNT started showing A Christmas Story just 24 hours a day, like in the lead up to Christmas. And it was the wildest thing, and people went nuts for it. And like they would just watch it like for 24 straight hours. I'm kind of like you. I was never like, I always liked A Christmas Story, but I never was like, this is my favorite Christmas tale. It certainly is, and there are aspects of it that have grown on me kind of over time. But people went nuts over this. People loved it. People dress up as that Pink Rabbit costume that he gets, all of this stuff. And it just turned into this whole thing. Like I mentioned, there's a museum of the house, which is in Cleveland, Ohio. You can go to it. People go there to see the house, all this stuff. And this had, kind of a long life. It spawned a sequel, which I never even knew about until I watched this and it popped up as a suggested viewing, Christmas Story Part 2. Don't know anything about that. Let me know if it's worth my time to watch that. But it spawned like a stage play and a musical that came out like in 2012 that ran for one season on Broadway. Which is really strange. And then, recently, as of a couple weeks ago, we just got A Christmas Story Christmas, which actually, brings back Peter Billingsley and something that he helped to write to bring back. It's available on HBO Max, and we're going to be talking about that over on our Patreon site. But yeah, I don't know. So somewhere like in the weeds, this thing kind of existed and then just, I don't know, sprouted like three heads and turned into this Christmas behemoth that it is today. And it's very wild to me. One of my favorite aspects of this, and I think a lot of people's favorite aspects of it, is Gene Shepard's kind of narration of this, because you're seeing on the screen kind of the actions of this very young boy, right? This 8 or 9-year-old boy, but it's being narrated with like the thought process of an adult, which is just hilarious that he's like breaking it down. It's when you try to like explain like what a baby's doing or what a baby is thinking, and it's kind of that come to life, right? Like very much a look who's talking kind of a thing.
Yeah, but so cleverly done too, because some of the vocabulary words that they're using, it's just amazing, where they're like the cacophony of the sounds and sights, and you wouldn't say that, and I don't know if I'd say that as an adult, unless I was Gene Shepard talking about this film, right? Like it's so clever, and it goes to the stories. I mean, if you like this as a film and you haven't read the vignettes and you haven't kind of read the little stories that have this was based on, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go ahead and spend some time doing that. Read it to your family at Christmas time. They will love that, because it's very much the same look and feel. And so if you're into that, totally dive in, because that's the rub right there. That's really good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is A Christmas Story. It's a really good Christmas tale. Like I said, it's a good family tale. It's good for the young and old alike. It teaches you some lessons, and I don't know, it just makes you think of Christmas time for sure. So let us know if you are a big fan of A Christmas Story. Let us know if you ever watched it for 24 straight hours. And let us know if you got a decoder ring to tell you to drink more Ovaltine, because you should, in an Ovaltine martini. Let us know if you mix one of those up. Send us pictures, and do all that stuff. You can send those in on our social media. It's Instagram and Twitter. It's at Drink the Movies, and on Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to get the pictures of ours, see the episode recaps, all that stuff, you can do that on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And if you want a bonus Ovaltine cocktail and to hear what we thought about A Christmas Story Christmas, head over to our Patreon, which is www.patreon.com/drinkthemovies, where we've got bonus episodes and a bunch of other fun stuff going on over there. So make sure you check that out. And, Michaela, Christmas has come and gone. We got our Red Ryder BB guns, which are good, but the best way to say thanks for getting the best Christmas gift of all would be to leave us a 5-star review. Where should they be doing that?
You can do that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Good Pods, AirPods, anywhere that has podcasts that are distributed by Anchor, where all of that is supported. I'm sure that I've missed a couple of other places, but trust me, you can find us if you want to. Just Google us; we'll show up.
That's right.
We do 2 drops a week. If you're not already on our Patreon site, which I highly recommend because it's really cool stuff that's extra and above and beyond. But you can leave us a 5-star review if you're liking what you're hearing. Once again, we've had another best 2 weeks ever. I don't know what y'all are doing, but it's amazing, and we're really grateful. Tell all your friends. It's really exciting to be building the cocktail movie loving community all together, especially at Christmas time.
Especially at Christmas time, absolutely. And next week, Michaela, we're going to have to cover one of the most classic Christmas stories of them all, A Christmas Carol. And what better way to do that than with a Muppet Christmas Carol? So what I'm going to do, Michaela, is I'm going to go get another tin of Ovaltine. We have to clip off, the barcodes, send those in to get our decoder ring, mix up another 1 or 2 of these Ovaltine martinis because I need a break. Christmas Story was a lot to take in. So why don't we do that? And we will talk to everyone next time on
Drink
the Movies.
Only one thing in the world could have dragged me away from the soft glow of electric sex gleaming in the window.
Oh, fudge. Only I didn't said fudge. I said the word.